NASCAR hands him a one-race suspension. Jeff, what do you think of the decision by NASCAR? Was it the right call? Did it fit the situation? And is it consistent with things like this of the past?
Well, that's a couple different things, because I would argue it's not consistent. However, I 100% think it's the right call. I mean, as soon as that happened on Sunday, I was like, you have to suspend him for that. I mean, sorry. You cannot have drivers at a high speed track like Las Vegas right rear someone and hook them toward the wall. Kyle Larson's very lucky that Christopher Bell was there to sort of prevent him from going straight into the wall. Christopher Bell was very unlucky that he was there, but Larson, that could have been really bad. That could have been seriously bad. And you just cannot, you can't let your competitors do that. I understand they've let, they didn't suspend Noah Gragson at Road America, right? He turned Sage Karam, wrecks like half the field, and they dock him like 30 points and 30 grand or whatever it was. And so you would say, well, how come they didn't spin him there? But I think even a road course is different. Spinning someone off track or bumping someone off track at a road course, it's not great, but it's different. Spinning someone at a short track, or even spinning someone at an intermediate track, but spinning them with the left rear and spinning them into the grass, where that's not great. Again, like William Byron sort of did with Denny Hamlin to bump him into the grass under caution. None of that's like great or acceptable. But when you get to a position where you're going 170 miles per hour and you just turn someone into the wall, that's, especially with all the safety stuff we've been talking about. I mean, these even minor hits, knocking guys out. I mean, Bubba Wallace's own teammate, right? Kurt Busch, Bubba Wallace was standing in the press conference where Kurt Busch is getting emotional over he's not going to be able to race anymore because of head injuries. And the next day, Bubba goes and does that. And Larson's teammate as well, Alex Bowman, is out with concussion stuff. So I just think NASCAR had to step in. And if NASCAR, if they just do a fine there, what does that really say? We're going to fine you 100 grand. Okay. I mean, you have to have a situation where the penalty is severe enough that the next time any driver is seeing red and they're like having that flash of anger and they're like, I'm going to go get this guy, at least make them think in the back of their head, if you do this, you might be sitting out. Not like, I'm going to do this and if it cost me 100 grand, I don't care, whatever. It's worth it because I'm so mad right now, At least make them think, okay, you're going to get parked. Is it worth it? There's plenty of other ways to retaliate. He could have gotten him back later. He could have gotten him back in another race. He could have fought him after the race on pit road. I think all those things, any of those would have resulted in not getting suspended. But unfortunately, the move he made, I just think NASCAR, they had to do that. And I'm glad that they took a stance like that personally.
Well, and for me too, Jeff, we've talked about for a long time of, how different it is when you're dealing with playoff circumstances, right? Not trying to affect the championship. That 5 team's still running for an owner's championship. Christopher Bell was a casualty in this too, as we mentioned, going for a championship here. To have a negative effect on the playoff, that's just not fair for those involved here.
Yeah, and it was interesting because NASCAR seemed to indicate, Steve O'Donnell went on Sirius Radio, and he seemed to indicate that the playoffs element of it was not really a consideration for them, which I was a little bit surprised about. He also said Bubba walking on the track was not part of the penalty. Touching the official wasn't part of it. It was purely about that wreck and the safety element of it. That's what they weren't comfortable with. So that was an interesting call.
Absolutely. Sure. And you look at it too with one race. Is that enough? Should it have been for the rest of the season? I know we're playing with fire here, but should it have been more races? Should NASCAR have sent a bigger message, or do you think one race suffices?
I think one race gets a message across, because one race, even that is pretty rare. This is the first time they've suspended a driver for doing something on track since 2015 with Matt Kenseth. So, It doesn't happen very often. It's been a long time since they took this kind of action. So, a driver never wants to sit out of the car, and it's a pretty big deal when you have to go through the suspension process of, the scrutiny from the media, the fans, TV, NASCAR, your sponsors, your team, everybody being unhappy with you for various reasons. The other drivers, everybody sort of feel, against you. And a driver's worst fear is really getting pulled out of the car. So I think one race is enough of a message, and he'll get the point across. He's not going to be happy about it, but he'll understand going forward that, and everybody will, which is really, really key for the garage too, because every driver is paying attention to that. And if they didn't suspend him there, drivers are going to say, okay, well, it's a little bit open season now. I can really go really extreme if I want to, and nothing terrible is going to happen. So, getting pulled out of the car is, even for one race, that's enough.
What I wonder too, now that this suspension is going down, and when Bubba makes his return, and you mentioned the sponsors he still has to answer to, his fans, Toyota 2311, and everything like that. What do you think is going to be his reception among fans and then other drivers when he does make that return? Do you think he and Kyle Larson, do you think this is going to linger on between those two? Where's everything go from here?
I think with him and Larson, I mean, they're friends enough that they'll probably get over it fairly quickly. Or, I don't think they'll probably be playing golf together not that long from now. I mean, I don't think it'll be like a permanent rivalry or something like that. But the fans, I mean, look, Bubba unfortunately was already a target of a lot of fans. He has to deal with a ton of hate and racism just on a normal day when he does nothing. Now, unfortunately, he's given a ton of fuel to people who are already inclined to hate him, and even the people that support him. You can't really defend his actions here, including his own team. I mean, the statement that you look at their statement from 2311, and they're like, we're aligned with NASCAR. What Bubba did was not acceptable, and we've made that known to him and stuff like that. So I think driver introductions at Martinsville, when Bubba walks across that stage, are going to be some of the loudest boos we've heard in a long time. They're not going to let him forget this anytime soon. I do think it's somewhat fortunate for him that the playoffs are still going on, and especially like when he'll come back, it's going to be the semifinal race, people trying to make the Final Four, then you'll have the championship, then you'll have the off season. So it'll be overall forgotten fairly quickly. This won't have I don't think it'll have a very long news cycle. I wouldn't expect, but the fans they're going to let it be known that they're not pleased with him for a while.
Well, Jeff, another thing too, we know that on Twitter, right, fans lit up on both sides of it, but as well as the promotion side of it too. Las Vegas Motor Speedway tweeting it out, later retracting that, and then the print version that ended up getting sent out. I don't know which paper that was, but I know Pete Pistone had put that out. And I mean, where is that balance drawn there too? Because we know stuff like this does sell, but does this certainly has to put the sport in a tough spot.
Well, I would think that Las Vegas Motor Speedway was the one that, they put it on their social. They put the ad in the Las Vegas newspaper. I would guess NASCAR is probably not pleased about that, probably not thrilled. But at the same time, they could say that now. And of course, we'll see this used as in an advertisement on Fox before the season next year. Check out this season. It's going to be crazy, and people are going to get mad, and they're going to show this incident. They're going to show them shoving. So, I mean, there's always, I hate that part of it, honestly, like the hypocrisy of penalizing drivers for incidents or whatever, and then using them in commercials, or like even the Ryan Newman wreck being used in like promotional stuff. I thought that was so tasteless. I hate that. There was a while there where I know it seems mind blowing to think about this now, but there was for a long time, like back when I was at NASCAR scene, I want to say, and even almost up to my USA Today days, I think, which started in 2013, there was sort of like this unwritten rule that NASCAR would never use crash footage in TV commercials. And when they started doing it in around the mid 2010s, it was like it was a big shock at the time. Like, whoa, they're using crash footage now to sell races? Wow, that's big, because it was sort of like, hey, these are incidents that are not safe, and this could have been bad. So they just wouldn't do that in commercials. It would be about the racing itself, really, like close finishes and drivers making moves. And now you see all the time cars flipping over, drivers running into each other, fighting, all this stuff. That's how they used to sell it. I personally don't think like the ad that was in the Las Vegas paper, and it was like round 2 coming next March and stuff like that. I don't even know what they were trying to do with that. I thought that was really a miss. I just don't get that. Like, why would you think, oh, you know what? I want to see that again. I want to see that incident. I want to see what's going to happen next. So I'm going to buy my tickets now. What happened on Sunday? I don't want to see that anymore. I don't care between what drivers. I don't want to go to a race and see that ever. So how could that be a selling point of like, oh yeah, check this out, buy your tickets? Like, no, I don't want to. No, please tell them not to do that next time I come,
Right.
So that was my take on it.
That's a good point.